Hello, my name is Juan Fuentes. I'm the Director of Administrative Services, and today we'll be talking about enterprise funds for the City of Roswell. Enterprise funds are those funds that we treat like business-like activities. The City of Roswell has about a handful of enterprise funds. We have the Roswell Air Center, we have the Solid Waste Collection Department, we have the landfill, we have the water department, wastewater. Those are all considered enterprise fund. Again, it is a business type activity that uses rate fees to pay for its operations. So they're self-supporting. Fees for enterprise funds, whether it's water, wastewater, solid waste, are set by the cost of services. So because we have to set the rates at an appropriate level to make sure that we account for not only personnel expenses, operating expenses, but also capital expenses, as well as any debt that enterprise may incur. For example, the purchase of a new water truck. And all of those associated expenses helps us to be able to determine the appropriate level of user rate fees. And that is what is used to offset a lot of those costs. We are currently undergoing a user rate study for all of the enterprise funds, primarily in the sanitation, landfill, water, and wastewater. Those fees are very specific and they go only for that activity. The water rate fees that we charge to our customers are dedicated to all activities related to the enterprise fund of the water department. And all water rates for the solid waste collection services are all deposited into that activity. So that's how we separate and make sure that those fees are appropriated to the right activity. There are no direct taxes that are contributed to their revenue stream, again, because it's all user fee based. So the property taxes, any gross receipts taxes, those revenue streams support another function of the city that's considered as the general fund. Again, primarily enterprise funds are supported by their own user fees. Enterprise funds are part of the city's budget. Every year we go through a budget process that takes all of our different types of activities, whether it be general fund and special revenues, but as well as the enterprise, which make a significant share of the total budget for the city. The cost to operate enterprise funds really varies depending on the particular enterprise. For example, water revenue, we estimate in this year's budget to be about $12 million. That is the revenue that we estimate will be collected from July 1st to June 30th. We're estimating about $6.9 million in expenses, which will include personnel, operating, and your capital expenses. On the wastewater, we estimate about $10 million in revenue for the same July 1st to June 30th period, with about $8.4 million in operating expenses. When you look at both from the revenue versus cost, we do have a balanced budget to be able to not only cover the expenses that are necessary for this year, but be able to have some resources available for improvements to that particular system. The purpose of treating enterprise funds as business-type activity, that is a state requirement by the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, that those business-type activities are treated and accounted for separately, again, primarily because the revenue for those activities is generated through customer user rate fees. And the user rate fees that are implemented and adopted are dedicated for that particular service. So they are separate, they're treated separately, again, in part because of state requirements as well as accounting requirements. Enterprise funds play a very critical role to the overall operations, quality of life to the city and the citizens of Roswell. They provide critical services that we need in our daily lives. providing sustainable water supply, but also being able to treat the wastewater that is used, and having to be able to treat it properly in accordance with the federal and state regulations. And of course, even the enterprise fund as the solid waste, that provides a critical to be able to keep Roswell clean by being able to properly dispose of all of the trash, refuse, and construction material that people might have on their property or where they have construction activity. Having a place to properly dispose of that refuge. So the landfill, of course, having a location where that can be deposited. So all of those enterprise funds combined provide a critical service to the city and surrounding communities. I think the most important thing to communicate in regards to the enterprise funds is that they serve a critical purpose. A lot of times we don't see the infrastructure because it is underground. The water lines, we don't see the sewer lines, the trash trucks running through the alleys, or the landfill covering of all the refuge. So I think it is a very critical service, and that's why it is important to make sure that we set our user rate fees at a reasonable level that can be able to maintain that service to the community, so that we are able to continue to keep all of the businesses going, all of the community providing all of the services. So it is a critical service that sometimes, although it's not very visible, but it is necessary for the overall health of the city.